Lineless drawings, or about regarding the application of tone as pure tone rather than lines, sketchy marks, things that reflect the sort of pencil without considering it. We gave our attention to trying to get pure areas of tone out of our pencils, of making them, getting them on their end where they are more blunt, and making patches of tone, no lines, thus a lineless drawing, making patches of tone that are more concerned with value than anything else. And shape is there, but shape can be refined later. What if, first and foremost, we are concerned with value? What if we make value our top priority, and after that, shape? But we can refine the shapes anytime, so we're not worried about that. We'll let this be blurry. We'll let this be fuzzy. We'll get tone where value is needed. In some places we'll keep toning. A few places that are quite light we will not revisit, but most places we'll keep revisiting. We'll try to get the full range and not miss anywhere. And yes, trying to get a more sophisticated type of tone. It's by rubbing and buffing, I called it, and making some lineless drawings. Did a study of a Rubens painting, did a groundhog. Things to remember when you're doing this are to work from the general to the specific, get everything going. Of course, don't do any outlines. Try not to do any lines at all. That'll be challenging at first because we're used to describing edges with lines, and that's the main way that we believe that we draw, but it's one way to draw. But what if we just make the areas of tone and try to get the values, you know, as dark as they may need to be in certain places, you know. Maybe I had a 2B there. Maybe I'll try to use a softer pencil. We can work our way up to the 8B, which will just get really dark for me really quickly. Keeping the pencil on its side and trying not to make outlines, but not even any, you know, not trying to apply my tone in a way that is oversimplified or, you know, crude, but get some solid patches like this that aren't so much about edges, you know, and creating a range of values within that. Working with light and shadow. You've heard me say that if you can draw the light and shadow, that you're drawing anything. So when I ask the questions, what shape do I see, how light or how dark, I am basically concerning myself with that. Shadow and light shapes reflect the form. Well, let's do the exact opposite of making a line drawing and fill it in, which is a legit way to make a drawing, but it's not the only way. And if we need help learning to understand value and modeling in light and shade, these lineless drawings can be very useful. Drawing something tonally, just patches of tone, paying attention to what's light or what's darker than other things, you know, what's light and what's dark first, before we get super picky about the shape. You can approximate the shape, but don't feel you have to get it perfect right away. And not being timid about our toning, because we may think we're sort of done, but if we compare, you know, then we find no, there's places that are darker still, and I can drive something that I've added tone to farther. So what shape do I see? How light or how dark? It sort of gets turned around. How light or how dark? You know, and then you just kind of approximate the shape. Because usually what happens is we look hard at shapes and we throw a value in there, and usually it's not right on the money, and oftentimes it's not enough, or it's not matched. But this way I'll keep going around and round and round and revisiting this stuff, never making like really super crisp shapes till perhaps the end, and see with just patches of tone if I can speak about what's going on in my subject that I'm looking at. Lineless drawings. All right, so everywhere that I might put a line, you see it's not a line, it's a skinny shape, right? I erase out something like that. It's not a line, it's a skinny shape. You know, thin shape of light value made with a little subtraction, right? You get the idea? Last time I had one of these models was holding an apple, and worked that pretty far and pretty rich, and I encourage you to do the same. Like, are you getting the full range of values? Are you using light and shadow? You know, do you have enough contrast? Is there places? And of course, it's not everywhere. You don't go over everything, giving everything the same treatment. You look close and see what's appropriate for a particular place, right? But I'm not sweating too much. You know, if something's not perfect, it can be moved, it can be smudged. I can get that little, you know, I've got something here that's kind of precise, which we call a knitting needle. And, you know, some tone was there and I erased it out. And if it wasn't exact, that's fine. Maybe it shouldn't be exact right now. Maybe I'm getting picky if I try to make something exact early on. So keep squinting as you do this and keep looking at light and shadow, because that's the aim of it. This is a study value kind of exercise. It's not only like a great way to draw, but it's also about learning, you know, for me, learning to not try to do everything with, you know, delineating everything and then adding a little tone to it or something. It's about going straight to the tone and beefing up my sensitivity to seeing values, and then also my willingness to boldly sort of put those down onto paper, you know, because they actually are very potent and strong and powerful values, rich darks, and, you know, a few good shapes of the right value will really do a lot for your drawing if they're observed well. For what is a detail? What we would call a detail is a small shape value. We can get detail in our drawing. We think we have to go in there and do some fancy schmancy surface rendering, but no, it's a smaller shape of something darker still that sits inside an area of tone that's already been established. So a small shape. And not everything has a hard edge on it. Most things don't, especially, we sort of say, well, in fur, I know that there aren't hard edges, but even the places where we feel that there's there's a big change of value in there, and that suddenly much darker area makes us think that there's a hard edge. But even on places like right here, the edge of what we call a knitting needle, if we zoom in close enough, it probably doesn't have a hard edge. The big change in value makes it appear like it has a hard edge, but if you get in close enough, it's going to look like, dots, not just pixels, dots, small sort of area. So let this be fuzzy. You can always go in and tighten up and refine something. That's an easy thing to do. But to get the big overall structures, we know, is more challenging for us. So these lineless drawings are a great way to practice kind of pure shape work, and even better, pure value work, in which we don't prioritize the shape as much. We mostly are just making patches of tone, to indicate our subjects, right? And we're not worried about specific stuff or a little picky stuff, because we can get that at the end. If it's small, if it's some tight little thing that results in precision, I don't have to worry about that. But I can get all of the major stuff laid in, and I know that I need to practice seeing that first and getting that first, because if I've got that first, I'm fine with whatever I do afterwards. But if I don't have that, then I could have some trouble. So there we go, lineless drawings.